Quick recap. Last time, we created our character, claimed all our account items and Paragon rewards, opened some packs, and combated the Hellions and Arachnos in Atlas Park's arc. Be sure to check out the previous video if you haven't already, but it is not necessary to follow this one. But I would appreciate it. Upon completing the Atlas Park arc, we returned to Miss Liberty to advance to level 8. I dropped 2 more points into Dominate, grabbed Levitate, jumped 2 points into It, and then grabbed Terrify. I slot a bunch of Training Origin enhancements into my pack. Alright, let's stop for a second. Training Origin enhancements. Some of the most useless items in the history of City of Heroes. Recently reworked on Thunder Spy, they are obtainable from levels 1 to 15, from vendors or completing missions. You can slot these in any power regardless of origin. They give you a flat 15% stat buff to whatever they're slotted into. For example, Gale here. Gale contains 1 accuracy and 2 recharge reductions. When I hover over the power, you can see its accuracy is increased by 15% and its recharge is lowered by 30% from 8 seconds to 6.15. They can no longer be combined together to increase their value, as the value they currently hold is better than the old system of combining them together. They are locked in at 15 and will start to diminish once you surpass it, until they totally expire and become useless at level 19. They can also be sold at vendors or deleted by the player. And don't worry, there are more enhancements past level 19 that share similar rule sets and are just as easily obtainable. With all that out of the way, I slot a bunch of enhancements into my current powers, sell off a few of the useless ones, and then dump 3 damage enhancements into Levitate. Jesus, I almost fell on my chair. I travel to the Paragon City monorail and board a train to King's Row. Upon arriving, I meet up with Shauna Stockwell, who's having trouble with many residents of King's Row becoming meth heads. Super eating addicts, due to the Skulls pushing the product onto the new residents. She directs me to Genevieve Sanders, who tells me the Skulls have a drug den around Industrial Avenue. I beat up a few Skulls who tell me about Toothbreaker Jones. I arrive at his hideout and start battling my way through the groups of Skulls, only to have a really close call and have to back out. I return to the mission and take the fights more carefully. Isn't there a guy? Oh, there he is. There he goes. Upon reaching the 2nd floor, I noticed this weird black bar in my leveling menu. I checked my settings to realize that I had disabled earning XP in favor of getting double influence somehow. I switched my settings back to normal and fought my way through to battle Toothbreaker Jones. I mind control a Deathwalker to assist me in taking out the final group. After a 1 battle, I salute my deathly ally, and then I beat him into the ground. I called Shauna, who informed me that Genevieve had the location of another Skull drug den. She hands me the address and make a quick pit stop at Blue Steel to dump another point into Dominate and 2 more points into Gale. I filled in a couple more enhancements and made my way to the supposed drug den. I inspect some items around the empty warehouse to discover that the Skulls had prepared an ambush for me. Although I knew this was coming, I still couldn't handle the attack wave. I reinitiated the ambush and took the fight a bit more carefully. But despite my different approach, I couldn't handle the following attack waves, resulting in another defeat. Upon my return, the door was full of Skulls. I attempted to fight them off, but their overwhelming reinforcements proved to be too much for me, and I had to exit the mission. I re-entered and unsurprisingly died again, which caused me to finally cave and buy some luck inspirations at the hospital. This time when I entered the battle, I was prepared and I picked my targets carefully. I had 2 really close calls in the fight, but in the end, reigned victorious. With how difficult this was becoming, I figured going at it alone would be no good. So I invited a random player to help me out. Although at this point, all of the ambushes were complete and the rest of the mission was smooth sailing from there. I returned to Genevieve and thanked her for the ambush, then talked with Shauna, who was frantic about a source of hers, Emily Rodriguez, being captured by the Skulls. She suggested I talk to Vic Johansson, who may know where Emily is being held. Before doing that, I returned to Blue Steel in order to pick up my new power, Steamy Mist, which is essentially a defense toggle for me and my allies. I talked to Vic, who decided that we should hit the streets together to find out more about the Skull ceremony, who he presumes Emily is being held at. We discovered the hideout for the Skull ceremony, and my teammate and I easily fought off the initial guards. I then got a message from another player and decided to invite them to the team. With a defender and a scrapper by my side, we had no issue making it to the end of the mission. Emily was rescued and was defeated. Shauna then informed me that there was a massive shipment of Super Eating out there that will be delivered to Anderson Construction very soon. The building was absolutely full of Skulls. Usually this would be pretty tough, but with an addition of a defender on my team, he kept me alive, which made progression through the mission trivial. As it turns out, the elite boss Chernobog didn't actually spawn in his final room. Most of his minions were passive and thus easily fell. We cleared the room and I reset the mission to try and spawn him again. This time around, he showed up and I trailed him all the way back to the beginning of the mission to fight with my team. Since Chernobog had to run all the way to the beginning, he didn't have as nearly a large of an entourage as he would have, allowing my team and I to make quick work of him. I called Shauna, who was ecstatic to hear I took down a Lord of Death and stopped a Super Eating shipment. She told me some old dude from an old hero group wanted to chat with me. Before heading to him, I hit Blue Steel and slotted 2 more points into Terrify, then followed up by depositing 2 recharge reductions into it. I spoke with Eagle Eye, who was impressed in my recent works at combating the Skulls in King's Row, and he requested my help. Apparently, the other Lord of Death, Vels has been assassinating city officials who are attempting to crack down on Super Adine through a new legislation, and that I should head over to Councilman Hammond to protect him before his big speech. I arrived at the office to discover bodies of PPD and family goons scattered across the floor. I made it to Councilman Hammond's office to see him lying on the floor, apparently very, very dead. Written across his chest is a bloody message that stated, "The Lords of Death." Suddenly, I hear voices of family goons outside the office that were quickly making their way towards me. I planted myself in the corner behind a wall in order to funnel the goons closely together to make for some easy crowd control. I fought them off for a while until another wave hit from across the hall. While it was bad, it was still manageable. I held my ground and kept their backs held firmly on the floor, right up until... Holy 60 crap! With this many goons, I died pretty quick. Oh, leave. Or defeat, okay. Eagle Eye was perplexed by the family's involvement with the skulls and assassinations taking place, as this is way outside the normal turf. He let me know that Councilwoman Simmons was most likely going to be hit next, as she took up the mantle of combating the skulls politically even after her councilman peer died. So, it's now my job to run security for her. Before this mission, let's talk about restraint. You may have noticed the enemies haven't been flying backward as hard as they have been. That is due to restraint. You restrain yourself and severely reduce your knockback and knockup effects while slightly lowering your damage. It's a toggle everybody has access to, and you can choose to use it or not. Why don't I just show you how it works when you combine it with Gale? I defeated the final family goon and spoke to Councilwoman Simmons, only to discover that the small army I had just defeated in the office building was actually her security detail. Turns out the family's leader, Sebastian Frost, provided her with security as he shares my point of view on the problem. Before I could continue questioning her, Morona interrupted and declared that the Lord of Death, Vels, wanted both of us dead. A battle of minds and magic commenced, and Storm enshrouded the darkness, and in a puff of smoke, Morona vanished. I talked with Simmons and asked her to elaborate on the family. She explained that she wanted to believe Frost was doing it for the good of the people, but deep down she knew he wasn't. Her husband was deathly ill from the Super Adine, and Frost said he'd help cure him if she also helped them, as having a councilwoman aiding a criminal organization like the family could be highly beneficial. I told her I'd keep her secret, and in turn she promised to refuse to help the family any further, while still standing up against Super Adine. Eagle Eye discovered that the family is strategically using council representatives in an attempt to clear the family's name, as the family theatrically combats Super Adine and thereby the Skulls. However, the Skulls found their own way of making Super Adine and ceased their reliance on the family's drugs. With the knowledge that the Skulls are now producing their own drugs, I needed to find a way to pinpoint the drug labs. I needed to go undercover. Paula Dempsey would be able to fit me for disguise so I can properly infiltrate the Skulls. I advanced to level 12 and picked up Mass Confusion. Now I'll be able to mind control nearly an entire group of enemies at once. I spoke with Paula, who provided me with my disguise, which came outfitted with a tracking beacon and an earpiece. After a few days masquerading as a skull, I found out about this hideout. I overhear some chatter about this ribcage, in which I can partake in if I speak to Shatterjaw. I convince him I have what it takes to compete in the ribcage to become a Bone Daddy and head upstairs. I walked up to the ribcage, which was already set, and I advanced to speak with Bone Dust. I assured him I was ready to fight in the arena and moved on to talk with the fight organizer. After some edgy reassurance, I began my match in the ribcage. Due to my ×4 mission settings, I had to fight a 4v1 with the absence of my own powers, instead utilizing 3 melee attacks and 2 assault rifle attacks. Jig is up. After slowly walking my way back to the ribcage, I knew I had to approach this fight differently if I wanted to win. I opted to pull the enemies, and to my luck, they couldn't get past the skull wall. We traded shots with me engaging and disengaging until I barely took him down. Afterwards, I stood around waiting to regen so I could repeat the process. Also, this is 20 times speed. Apparently, skulls regen extremely slowly. I tended to pull off the same strategy, only this time, I must have broken line of sight long enough for him to try and find a better route. I'm over here. Uh-oh. Where'd he go? Where did the nerd go? Oh! Did they kill him? Uh-oh. I used this amazing technique to take care of 2 of the other skull gunners, and then defeated the last one on my own. Upon my victory, the Paragon Police Department announced that they had surrounded the building. Hordes of police officers swarmed the entrance. I fought alongside my skull brothers to strengthen my disguise and have an excuse to shoot some police officers. Oh god. Hey, chill. Holy Christ. They do be kind of have a lot of... Chill. Get away from me, police. Oh my god. Get out, get out, get out. After my successful escape, I was gifted an invitation to go to a skull rave where I would be able to confront the other Lord of Death, Bells. I took down the first group of skulls when a bunch of ravers frantically fled the building. Once I advanced forward, a cutscene interrupted, essentially informing me that Bells and Marona were going to vacate the building and leave me to fight Backbreaker, while he holds the ravers hostage. I also get a brief mention of Bells interacting with a troll that he's going to show his lab. Progressing through the mission, I ended up dying. A lot. Maggie, take the frick away. I'm gonna die! No, no. Maggie! I finally made it to the last group, and as the fight went on, I noticed skulls that shouldn't be drawing aggro were advancing towards me. So, I figured this was another perfect instance for our old pal's self-destruct. Actually, you wanna shoot me? You're gonna make it impossible. No! Woo! No! No way. Oh my god! This is so stupid! So it turns out, after I left the mission, I also left the game, hoping it would cancel the self-destruct so I could save myself a trip. It didn't. So when I returned to the mission, I had to do it all over again. I was a bit of an angry guy. This time, when I hit the boss room, I fought at the very edge and didn't draw any excess aggro. Backbreaker ambushed me, and I take him down with relative ease. He refused to give up the location of the lab, so instead, I knock him out and place a tracker on him. Good God. So glad that's over. I popped 2 more enhancement slots into Levitate and grabbed Hasten. Hasten reduces the recharge time of all your powers by 2 minutes. However, you become tired and lose endurance once it expires. Following the tracker, I made it to Royal Refinery and immediately died. After facing a little more abuse, I finally encounter Vels. I engage him with self-destruct to soften up the group before I fought him. Since I'm struggling with normal groups, it's doubtful I could take one alongside a Lord of Death. The explosion goes off and it takes out a sizable chunk of his med. Okay. Oh, thank God. I thought they were coming for me. Yeah, get out of here. What? I began my fight with Bells. I immediately took control of his Grave Knight minion to fight for me while I kept the Death Head Gunner at bay. The Grave Knight finished off the gunner for me, and after a few more minutes of battling, Bells collapsed to the ground defeated. I saved the facility manager from a small group of skulls and escorted him out of the fiery building. With Vels defeated and the manager saved, I conclude Eagle Eye and thus the King's Row's arc. With 2 more points in a mass confusion, I complete my time in King's Row and set my sights for the future, for the Hollows. Alright, and here we are. This took quite a while to make. The next one probably won't be as long. I don't think I'm gonna include so much in one thing. Maybe I'll split it into 2-parters depending on the zone. We'll see. But this was fun. I feel like I'm getting the hang of things and trying to get a better formula together. I feel like this is a lot stronger than the first one. But yeah, I don't really have any more closing thoughts. Just look forward to the Hollows for next time. Probably gonna be teaming up with people a little more often. And yeah, hope to see you there. Thanks for watching. I inspected some items around the empty warehouse and discovered that the skulls had